Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Building a Bookable Portfolio panel. I am Simone. You met me earlier. I'm one of the founders of Black Beauty Roster. We're so excited to have you here. I'm also so excited to have these panelists here. We got a great group of amazing beauty professionals that you guys probably all know about, are fans of, as am I. If you guys don't mind, for the audience, just quickly introing yourselves and sharing a small bit about yourselves. So, Navasha, kick it off.
Hi, everybody. My name is Navasha, and I'm a celebrity hairdresser. I'm a member of the Wall Group roster. So in love with that fact. I have 5 babies. I am a beauty pro, a beauty expert, and a curl expert.
And Kate.
Hi, I am Kate Stirling, and I work with all of these incredible artists on this panel. I'm so happy to be alongside the 3 of you. And I'm based in Los Angeles. I'm the director of the Wall Group, and I started at the Wall Group in 2002. And I joined Allie and Brooke, who Brooke Wall founded the Wall Group in 2000, and Allie started as Brooke's assistant. And we are all still heavily involved and love the agency and love looking at all these artists. This is just a wonderful way to celebrate you guys, and happy to be here.
Awesome. Autumn.
Hi, I'm Autumn Moultrie. I've been doing makeup, celebrity makeup for over 20 years. I'm LA based, and I'm on the Wall Group roster as well. And I am extremely happy with my experience there. And I live in LA, and I have a daughter and a husband, and I love my life. I love my job, and I'm lucky, and you can be too.
Awesome. And Marty.
Hey, I'm Marty Harper. I'm a hairstylist. I do hair for normal people to celebrities to, you name it. I've been at the Wall Group for a little bit over 3.5, 4 years. I'm originally from San Diego. My craft varies from everything from textured hair to European, like silky hair, to whatever it is that you need to do. I have been in this industry for a bit over 20 years, and it's been a very enjoyable ride. I share it with these amazing people that are on this board today on this panel. Navasha, I look up to. Autumn, I look up to. Emily, I look up to. Kate, I've never met in person, but grateful to have you as well as a representative here for our agency. The Wall Group has been a very coveted experience to experience along the way. It's been super helpful, just kind of championing my experience and, helping me to open doors and to put my work where it needs to be put to be seen. So that's been really tremendous.
Amazing. And Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily Chen. I've been doing makeup for about 16 years now. I'm based in LA, and I've been with the Wall Group for just a little over 2 years, and it's been such an amazing experience. I'm from Canada, Vancouver, and the Wall Group is kind of the one agency I set on when I first moved here. So it's been very exciting, to say the least.
Awesome. So it's a pleasure to have each and every one of you here. As everyone's mentioned, these are all Wall Group artists, and we have Kate here, who's a director of the Wall Group. And as Marty mentioned, the Wall Group is a very esteemed platform within the industry. Everyone kind of wants to be in or around or part of the Wall Group. So Kate, I'd love for you to share, for those that may not know, do you mind sharing more about the Wall Group and the mission behind the company?
Absolutely. Brooke Wall founded the Wall Group in 2000, and originally started an office in New York, and then in 2002 opened an office in Los Angeles, and I was the first employee in LA. I think the Wall Group, Brooke started as She actually worked at Orbe's salon in New York. And I think that Brooke quickly realized that you have your salon artists, right? And then there's this whole other industry of freelance artists, and that there was really no leader in that space. There weren't, that many agencies at that point. So that's when Brooke formed the Wall Group. And I think at the beginning, it was really a lot of fashion artists. And then obviously through the years, as the celebrity side of this business has grown so much, we've adapted and grown the celebrity side. And then when we were acquired 5 years ago, we were fortunate enough to open an office in London and in Paris. So we really have expanded so much, and really grateful to be a part of the Endeavor team, because with the laws in France and in the UK, it is really hard to navigate from the US. So it really helped us expand over the past 5 years. And then our mission, I think, our goal is to always work with the most talented artists, also to identify emerging artists. I think that's always really exciting for us to watch and help groom artists to become the best artists they can be. And yeah, and we want to work with professional, nice people. So it's been a great journey for us, and we're still going, and right now we're really looking at new areas also where we're seeing a lot of growth, and where there is a need for artists in Miami, in Nashville, in Austin. So that's really fun, kind of looking at different territories right now and figuring out how we're going to grow and find artists in each of those territories.
That's actually an amazing point you bring up, because there are a lot of beauty professionals, both aspiring and established, who are in the audience probably watching this panel right now. And they're probably very curious about having representation, the benefits to it. And I'd love to hear from each of you, starting with Kate, but each of you about the benefits of having representation, and specifically to the Wall Group too.
I mean, I can only say that if you're on your own, right, you have no visibility to what jobs are out there. So when you have an agency, depending on where you are, your agency are your eyes and ears, right, for all jobs in your industry. And without eyes and ears, it will take you a really long time to grow. It's interesting right now because we are seeing all of these digital booking apps, right? Like Glam Squad, and coming out of COVID, there's definitely more outlets for, artists to go do and goes. And as I don't know that people are going to want to go back to makeup counters immediately, right? Like, it's going to take a minute. So there are, local booking apps. I think that is a good way for artists to get out there, but definitely being a part of an agency, it's a completely different level. And even if you're an emerging artist, you can assist an A-list artist and learn that way. But hands down, having the visibility that the Wall Group or other agencies have is key.
Totally. Emily, what would you say are the benefits of agency representation?
Definitely just having that knowledge. I did things on my own for quite a while. I just joined 2 years ago, so it's still pretty fresh. It's you're trying to nourish your creative side, but at the same time you're answering to emails and doing all that back end stuff that you don't even realize how hard it can be, or like what you would quote for rates, like all these things you just have no idea, and you're kind of guessing almost. So I think it's just so important to have somebody who really understands the industry, and also they have such a big backlog of different jobs and information from that you just don't. So I found that incredibly helpful. It's almost like having a partner. Anytime I need something, the first person I ask, and we have such a great relationship. So that just kind of keeps me going as well. If I'm feeling down about something, she's also like one of the first people that I would message. So it's been invaluable for sure.
Awesome. So like having a right hand kind of in this journey.
I mean, you're on your own as an artist, so it's nice to have somebody with you.
And Marty, do you have another perspective to it? What have you found?
Before I came to the agency, I actually owned my own agency for 4 years. So actually a little bit over 4 years. And I had 2 agents, one in New York and one in LA. And I built my career to basically a really beautiful place. And then when my agent was going to have a baby, I decided to come to the Wall Group, or I decided to take meetings. So they set up meetings, and I tried to find a place that would facilitate the next pivot in my business, and take what I had pre-existing and, build off of that. And it was a lot of the conversations that I was having with agents and the need to find the comfortability. I think the representation part of it is super. You do need representation so that you're not actually having to deal with the facets of trying to figure out rates or having these uncomfortable conversations with clients. It's almost having the buffer, but it's also someone that's able to take you through this process of allowing you to see what's on the table and understanding how to play the card so that what's next is the most beneficial thing for the growth process for you, but also like making sure that what you're actually signing on for is ultimately the best idea for your brand and for your business. I think agency-wise, when we look at what the Wall Group offers or what agencies offer today, it's like you really want to find the place that's going to really invest in your property. And that's like helping you to build the foundation from, the back end and making sure that you have the public relations contacts, making sure that you're working with, the best products or the best clients. And that's, I think, ultimately what I found best in the Wall Group, because when I met with other agencies, it was like, yeah, I could have gone off and kept doing like the art aspect of it and really heavy aspect of art, but I also know that I needed to monetize my business in a different way. So it's I have a healthy balance between the art and the celebrity and then the advertising as well.
And Autumn, what are the benefits for you for agency representation?
Well, I have always had an agent. I started off with an agent who was heavily into music and music videos, and then I went to another agency for 12 years that is publicity and press based. But so when I decided to go to the Wall Group, I really was nervous about it, even though I was excited, but I was really nervous. But I have to tell you, I have the best agent that I've ever had. And she immediately, her name is Morgan, and she said that she believes in me so deeply. And she just really made me feel so comfortable. And then I also talked to Elizabeth Stewart, who's a wardrobe stylist who's represented by the Wall Group, and we have a mutual client, and she put it the best way. She said, it's like the Wall Group is just very corporate. They're like an octopus. They have their hands in everything. So they know everything. Like you talk about your eyes and ears. They have their eyes, ears, toes, and fingers in it all at the same time. And so they're one step ahead of, I'm sorry, everybody else. And And when I get put onto a job that's like, I haven't ever heard the person, I used to hate to do those jobs because I was like, ugh, is this, I mean, I hate to say this, but like, is this person going anywhere? Like, what is this job going to be? Every time I'm put on a job with someone that I don't know, the person, because we're the last in the step, you know, hair and makeup for press. They've already done the film. The project's already been created, and they're like the creme de la creme. So I can't speak more highly of agency representation, but also specifically the Wall Group. For me, it's been an incredible experience.
Awesome. And lastly, Naivasha.
I think Autumn hit the nail right on the head. And that's actually what I was going to say. I came from another agency, and their basis was more press, and there were a few musicians and things like that. So I was dealing with more junkets. And I decided to take meetings, and the Wall Group was one of the meetings that I took. And I listened to other agencies, but what I was personally looking for was more of a corporate mindset, because I really wanted to make my brand bigger. Like I really wanted it to be a staple in the beauty industry, and I couldn't figure out any other way that would make more sense for me than the Wall Group. And so when you speak about a corporate structure and you speak about still having a boutique-y, personal type of relationship with the team, that's very much the Wall Group. I have such an incredible agent. Oh my God, her name is Kit. Kit is everything. I know she's so tired of me. God bless her. I live in her email. I live on her text message. I live probably in her dreams. I talk to her so much.
Me too.
And she's so good to me. The entire Wall Group team is so good to me. But again, like Autumn said, it's like they're like this octopus. They have all of these arms and eyes and mouths and just all of these moving parts and pieces, and they just make sense of everything. And for me, it has been paramount in the growth of my business. And I just cannot imagine I'm good. Like I'm a creative and I'm still a business person, but they took it to the next level for me.
Yeah.
And I look forward to them taking it even higher or helping me take it even higher. So yeah, it's been an incredible experience. I can't speak for other people. I can just speak for me, and I don't see it any other way.
Amazing. Kate, I feel like you guys are going to have a bombardment of emails
They are.
to be represented with all the sharing and really hyping up the Wall Group. But that said, you also mentioned, Kate, that you guys are going to less mainstream cities, like you mentioned, like smaller cities, and seeing about talent there. What do you look for in great creative talent, and how does the Wall Group really find that talent?
So, and it's interesting, like how artists start in their career. They could be working at a MAC counter, right? Or assisting an Orbe or a Serge Normand, right? And there's different ways to start and get in. We are always looking for creative artists, really creative artists. Oftentimes it's through assisting our big artists. And when we consistently get really good feedback, it's like, okay, this is somebody that should be on our radar. And we will start moving that assistant around to other A-list artists so they can learn something from different artists. And then they once they're on our assistant list in different cities, if we ever receive any bad feedback, they're off the list. You have, because there's so many people that are trying to get in, right? That if we get bad feedback, we just can't risk sending them out with another artist. So I would say that, I'm trying to think, and right now we're just noticing that all of the big work used to be in New York and Los Angeles, and especially during COVID, and all these businesses are moving to other areas, celebrities moving to Nashville. You know, music really has, the music industry really didn't stop that much during COVID, as I know specifically Marty and Naivasha know, because you work with big musicians. But so we want to follow the work, and we see a need in these other areas. Like in Miami, we have gotten so many phone calls for jobs during COVID where we don't necessarily have the talent there. So we are going in. You know, we do look on Instagram, and we are doing this incubator program right now, where we are identifying emerging talent that has been underrepresented. And that has been a great tool for us as well, to see these portfolios and learn about artists. And it's only in the US right now. We will move to UK and Paris at some point. But so we have been collecting all of these incredible portfolios that are on our radar for when we're ready to move into that territory.
Right. And you mentioned about being an assistant and how that can really break someone into the industry. Emily, you assisted under some of the best in the industry, like Pat McGrath and Monica Blunder. Can you share more about what you learned as an assistant during that time, and what do you think, how were you able to take the skills you learned and implement that into the career you have now?
I look back on my assisting years super fondly. I don't think I know I wouldn't be where I am now without all of the artists I assisted, especially coming from Vancouver. It's just a whole new level of sets, of jobs, of clients, so it can be really intimidating. And just being there and shadowing somebody and learning the ropes and getting your feet wet that way really has been very invaluable in just getting comfortable with being in this industry. And I think that when you're really passionate and you work really hard and you're paired with this artist, like Kate said, they really do recognize all of that, and you just never know where it'll go. So assisting was really great for me. Yeah.
And Kate, you also mentioned how the makeup industry and working with beauty pros, everyone's doing it now. It's everyone from not just red carpet celebrities, but also the music industry. And that makes me think of you, Marty. Like, you work with everyone. Like, your portfolio is very vast, from like Halsey to Victoria's Secret models. And I want to know from you, like, how do you toggle between those worlds, and how do you find that inspiration? Because I know it's like beach waves one day and like something really edgy the next. So how do you kind of navigate those worlds?
I think ultimately when we look at hair, and I look at my craft, I never really tend to differentiate the facets of what it is. It's fabric. So I'm always working with fabric. I'm working with it in the sense of like cut, color, sew, however it is. So I don't differentiate it. For me, it's a matter of finding something that relates to the way that I feel during that experience, how it will elevate that actual look, and how it will cement the actual entirety of the project. There are certain things that clients ask me to do that I will often challenge, because I know from my experience of 20-something years that it won't actually make the entirety of the image. So I don't differentiate. I actually try to implement, my experiential knowledge and the craft that I've honed in on from 20-something years to put into these facets of styles. And I think that it's really important that you, as an artist, you listen, but you also look at what the entirety of it is that you're shooting and try to make something that relates, because sometimes we get to work, or people get to jobs and they want to do their show. And that's not ideally what we're doing. We're working as a collaboration. And, I think that that's ideally how I always step in. If you know me as a person, I won't go to set and be like, this is my show. Autumn knows because we work together. Emily knows we work together. Navasha, I've only worked with on one set, but she's my sister. So it's, you really try to collaborate and use the community, and you all try to have these ideas that actually work off of each other. And again, I don't differentiate. I think that's the one thing that, as a Black Mexican artist that has come into this industry, a lot of people have asked me, how do I differentiate? And I've always been so different because I'm Black and Mexican. And when you get that, and, I represent the Black side of my person and the Mexican side, but it's also like I've worked in a very white dominant community for such a substantial amount of time. I remember there were times where, people would tell me, don't ever do Black hair because that's the hair you're going to be stuck with. Or, or they would tell me I can only do Black hair. So it's like, I think that we have to get that mindset out of there. It's like, it's not specific. These textures aren't specific to one person or one group. It's like they can facilitate across the board. So I think it's really about that for me.
Amazing. And Autumn, I'd love to talk to you about, we've been talking about all the different pockets of the industry. Grooming is another facet of the industry that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. I'd love to talk to you more about that and how you've become such an in-demand groomer. Everyone thinks, with men, they don't really need anything, but groomers are quite important. So I'd love to hear more about your experience and how you got into that facet of the industry.
Okay. I love being a groomer. I love the juxtaposition of working with women sometime one day and then a man the next day. And I call groomers like we're like fairies. Like we come in and we fix them up and then we leave and no one knows we were even there, because you're not a groomed man. I mean, unless you want to be, unless you want the makeup to show, which, it's a new thing now. People are wearing makeup that's supposed to be seen. But for the most part, men like to look coiffed and pampered and primped without it even looking like we've been there. And that's, to me, the best kind of grooming. So I think that it's a really, also men tend to be very loyal. So that's really a nice aspect of male grooming. But it's more than just anti-shine. And I know that people think that, in fact, I was on a job once and a hair person was like, oh, I've got this grooming job, what is it? Should I just use like anti-shine? And I was like, well, it's not quite just that, I mean, sometimes men are human beings and they have flaws and you need to cover them up. And, but you don't want it to look like you have any makeup on, or, I happen to, do light barbering. I like to, line them up or whatever, just make sure that their hair is looking the way that it should. And, that's part of it. And, it's a great field. I know people who only do men's grooming and, they're very happy. And so, yeah, it's a great, portion of doing makeup.
And Marty, you brought up a really great point about, and I think all of you can speak to this, and I'd love to hear from each and every one of you about your experience with this, about not being pigeonholed, especially being an artist of color and do work with, Black people, Hispanic people, Asian people, and not having that be the only thing that you're known for. All of you have extremely diverse portfolios, are known for doing everyone from like Viola Davis, Yara Shahidi, just so many various different people. How were you able to build that expertise, kind of break out of being pigeonholed, and what advice would you give to other people who are also trying to navigate that right now? I'd love to start with you, Autumn, and then we can kind of go around to each person.
Okay, so how did I build that? Well, I just knew how to do all different skin tones. So, and I guess the way to do that, I kind of got known for that pretty early on. And that came from just, I worked behind the counter. And I was very active after I graduated from college. Then I decided I wanted to be a makeup artist. I worked behind the counter and I made sure that people sat in my chair and that I did their whole makeup, because I don't care if it's a celebrity or a person on the street. I just like for people to feel good about themselves. And I feel like makeup is very empowering. So I, I got my feet wet that way. And then I, started working when I got an agent, I started working with Hype Williams, and that was intense. That was for a decade. And that was girls sitting in my chair, black, white, Asian, mixed. I mean, tall, short, all of them. And I had to know how to do it all. And I had a staff of, sometimes 6 assistants. And so, and I had, it was my stamp of approval that had to be on everyone. So I had to make sure that I knew all the different skin tones, but also the undertones of skin. That's really important. I think that people don't understand that undertones are a lot of it. And if you don't know anything about undertones, you can get a color wheel and you can study it. And you can even keep it in your kit at the beginning and until you can eyeball it, but and hold the color wheel up to the person's skin, because Denai's undertones are different from Viola's, or just whatever. Everybody has different undertones, and you really need to know that. That is the most important thing. And so I pretty much learned on the job. But if you're not working and you want to get to know all that information before you start working, just grab one of your friends, but and try makeup on them, and then take pictures though, because that's the thing. You can do the makeup and you think you've nailed it, and then when you take the picture, you're like, uh-oh. So you really have to take pictures and be critical of your work. You don't want to be overly critical, because that's part of being an artist, but you do want to judge the areas that you need work in and where you don't, and also just realize that in the creative process there are like 6 steps, and it's like, I don't know if you know the stages of creativity. No. But you start off and you're like, oh, this is awesome, and then you're like, oh, okay, wait, where am I going here? And then you're like, oh, this is shit, and then you're like, oh, I'm shit, and then you're like, oh wait, things are looking up, and then the last stage is, oh, this is awesome. So you have to know that you're going to have ups and downs, and you just got to ride the wave. And it's just makeup, it can be washed off. Don't worry about it, but improve. And you're going to make mistakes, and mistakes are okay, because then you learn. And when you learn, you grow. And when you grow, that's what life is about. So just be easy on yourself, but force yourself out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. Naivasha and Marty, I'd love to hear your experience, especially because you guys work with textured hair, but you also work with straight hair. Naivasha, you're the curly girl queen, so I'd love to hear from you about diversifying the portfolio, but also leaning into what you are amazing at and showcasing that and transcending that.
Thank you. I started off in the salon. So my experience is a little bit different. I started off in the salon. I was behind the chair for many years. And then I started to transition into being more of a freelance artist. So I am used to working with different textures and different styles and types of women and different textures of hair. So my thought process behind making sure my book stays diverse is test shooting. I think if you continue to test, I think if you continue to do some editorials, you continue to encourage your clients to play just a little bit, your book will stay fresh. Your book will stay diverse. Your book will, people overall will look to you to do more than just what you're known for. People will look to me for more than just curls, or more than just braids, or more than just beads, or more than just wigs. They understand that I can do an incredible round brush. They understand that I can do, an awesome buzz cut. They understand that I can do very clean lines, or I can do artistic or conceptual styles. So if I practice doing that, and if I make it a point and be intentional about shooting that and showing that to the masses, then that type of work will consistently come in. It'll be a little bit of this and it'll be a little bit of that, which makes for a healthy book. So that's my thought process behind that.
Amazing.
What's the question, just quickly?
Oh, it's really more how you keep yourself, and I understand there's a lot of people talking right now. It's really about how you keep yourself diversified or keep your portfolio diversified while still staying true to, for Navasha. She does curly hair, but she wants to show that she can do so much more. How do you
For me, honestly, I think it's research. I think the biggest part of my career has been always to have a need to want to see more. I look at like the scope of work that has come from previous generations. I even look at current work. I read a great deal, and when I'm working on specific things, Autumn and I work with Naomi Osaka, and in the last few months, people have been like, "Oh, cool! Like, I want to do, this curly texture or like this like head wrap." And it's like you get to a place, and Navasha hit the nail on the head where she said, you really try to like get your client to play and to do other things. But for me, I always talk to my clients, and I'm like, "Well, we've already done this. Like, let's not give them this because that's going to stay on the mood board that they see for you." I think that if we can move the look this way, it will give us opportunity to do this down the line. Or like Halsey, for example, for a long time there, it was like we grew her hair out. And I always promised her, I was like, well, we grow your hair out, we'll get it to a good place, and then you can do whatever you want to do. You can cut it off, we can bleach it out, we can do whatever. But, you have these conversations with your creatives, with your collaborators, and you really try to make sure that your team is on board with that. The research is so key. I don't think people, the worst part of what I see within the next generation is that a lot of my assistants don't have the reference, the knowledge or the understanding of where these things come from. And that's so important because if you don't know how Cecil Beaton shot it, or if you don't know how, Gordon Park shot it, or you don't know any of these references, then it's like you're going to show up and you're like, cool, I just saw that on Instagram. But it's like, well, actually, where did it come from? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do we get there? Or like, what is the essence of that image? Or what is the essence of that texture? Or like, are we moving that texture around? Are we making it better? And that's the part I always make my assistants when they start with me read the Grace Coddington book, Grace. I think it's a really key book for people to read because, and I always say to you, I have one copy that I've circulated with 6 of my assistants. I give it to them. I say, read this book. If you want to write in the book, you can write in the book. If you want to highlight something, I was like, but if you don't know who these people are, I want you to go to Tumblr. I want you to go to the Google. I want you to get in there, and I want you to understand who these photographers, who these fashion people are. And I want you to understand where this actual industry has come from. Because you can show up and it's, we're going to do a beautiful braid texture, whatever. But it's like, actually, where is this reference coming from? Like, how are you feeling it? How are you driving this out? And how are you making this, something better than what someone else did? So that's inevitably how I work on my textures or how I challenge my book. And, I think it's really about, for me, honestly, like I try to take away a lot of the fear of what it is to create, because a lot of times we're put up against ourselves in the sense of like, I don't want to do it because I'm afraid it's not going to work and it's going to make me look bad. But honestly, some of my worst mistakes have been my biggest accomplishments.
Right.
So you just have to kind of take that and work from there.
And Emily, I'd love to hear about how you built such a diverse portfolio too, and what tips you can share. Oh, you're on mute, Emily.
Sorry. I think back to what a lot of what Autumn said too, it's so important as an artist to understand skin tones and features. Like for myself, a lot of the reason why I got into makeup was growing up, no one could do my features or like accentuate my features in a way that would look nice. And, you know, like I have monolids, and that was always a big struggle for a lot of artists. So I think just understanding how to, just having a strong foundation of how to do those types of things makes a big difference. Because once you're on set, you're working with all different types of people. If you start building a reputation that you can't do certain things, you will get pigeonholed, I find. So if you continuously work on your skill and learn how to accentuate somebody's features for themselves versus just kind of creating a mold or having everybody look quote unquote like pretty, like I think that makes a really, really big difference. You know, taking a step back and doing what's best for somebody and making them feel beautiful in that way versus creating a look that really just fits a mold. And I find that's been the most helpful for me, being able to do that. And I think that's kind of how my book is more diverse, and just really practicing your skill in that sense so that you can get to everybody. I think as an artist, you really should be. I mean, to get on set and not be able to match somebody's skin tone or do something that you, or like not be able to contour their eye properly, those types of things. I mean, it's just something like as an artist, I feel like you should be able to.
Exactly. It's a huge miss. Yeah. It's a huge miss.
And can I just add to that?
Yeah, of course.
I think that's a really good point, Emily, because Marty knows Naomi told me something recently, which was the most beautiful compliment I think I've ever gotten. She said, everybody before you, all the makeup artists before you, tried to make me look very Western. And I that really took me aback because I didn't even realize that I was doing that, which was basically keeping the integrity of her beauty, you know, her Asian eye. Like, what's wrong with that? You know what I mean? That's beautiful in and of itself. It needs to stay that way, as opposed to trying to make everybody look the same. So that's a really good point, Emily.
Yeah. I think you guys made great points all around. I do think the number one theme I'm hearing, well, there's quite a few themes, but one thing is really assisting. That is really where you're able to cut your teeth, where you're able to learn, be able to work on diverse, as you call it, Marty, fabrics and diverse skin tones and textures. How does one get into assisting? How do you kind of jump in there for those in the audience who are, you know, maybe, you know, in Chicago or Kansas City and they want to do that, but they just don't know the first thing about getting into that? Anybody?
I will take you there. So for me, when I moved to New York, I actually didn't know that I was going to actually be doing hair in the capacity of the hair that I'm doing now. It was about going to the salon, and I was connected with an editorial stylist, Mandy Lyons, who at the time was doing Sarah Jessica Parker graphics in the city. And that was like the coolest part of like my the entryway to this type of hair. And I reached out to so many different teams. I did like the halls to the agents to the producers, to all of that, and just to make sure that my name was put into the room. At that time, there wasn't a lot of space for people of color, in the sense that they only associated us with like black hair, and it was just like, luckily I managed to get on a few teams, and you just keep showing up and you keep doing as much work to make sure you stay in their mouths and you stay in their perspective, and you really try to also align with your counterparts, the colleagues. Us that sit on this panel, we grew up together in some sense, but that camaraderie, don't put yourself against that, the next artist. Make sure that that this whole thing it's a journey together. So you just have to keep showing up, and you have to make sure that you keep your family. So
Navasha, did you want to add to that, or?
No, that was perfectly put. One of the other things I think that you could do to position yourself in an assistant role is monitor your image. And I'm sorry, every time I say it, someone gets upset and offended. Sorry, your image matters. It does. It really, really matters. When people inbox me, or they DM me, or they hit me up in some way, the first thing I do is I go straight to their social media. I look through all of their images. I look through all of their tags. I look through everything, because that's associated with me. It's associated with me. Yes, I want your work to be beautiful, but I want to bring you aboard so that I can help you refine that and be the best artist that you could potentially be. Not be me, but be the best you, the best artist that you can be. And one of those things is, some of the things, it's professionalism. It's how you carry yourself. It's the things that you put out there into the world for people to have access to, et cetera, et cetera. And so, how you handle and how you manage your image is a very big deal.
That's true. That's true.
So, that's something that also should be brought to the forefront when you're talking about assisting and embracing an assistant.
That's an amazing point. I think that's a perfect place to end. This has been such a great conversation. I think the number one thing that we learned about building a bookable portfolio from each and every one of you is that it's about building a diverse portfolio, showing that you can do a number of different faces, a number of different hair textures and fabrics. I'm going to use that, Marty. I'm going to call hair fabric. Way to explain.
I'm going to interject there, but the reason why we call it fabric, because I come from Sassoon. So my education was Sassoon. And Sassoon always said that the hair is a fabric. You can cut, you can color it, you can sew it. And if you look at it and you understand it, it's fully that. So for all those out there, this is your fabric. Work with it.
For sure. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. I hope everyone learned something great. I know I did today. And I want to thank you guys again. This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.